The Objective News Network Presidential Candidate Profiles for 2024. Marianne Deborah Williamson. Welcome to the fourth in our series of reviews on the qualifications of the candidates running for president in the 2024 election. We have already looked at Ron DeSantis, the conservative Republican governor of the state of Florida, Dean Phillips, a moderate Democrat, and Vivek Ramaswamy, a conservative Republican. This time, we are going to take a look at Marianne Williamson, a liberal Democrat. Just as we did the last time, we will use authentication to look across 18 areas of interest to American voters as they go to the voting booth in 2024 to elect their next president of the United States. So, let's start off with the age of Marianne Williamson. Marianne Deborah Williamson was born on July 8, 1952. Although she is 71 years old, authentication found no evidence that Miss Williamson suffers from any debilitating sickness or disease that would stand in the way of a possible two-term presidency. Authentication did, however, find evidence that Ms. Williamson suffered a bout of severe depression in the past. Marianne Williamson is Jewish. She was born in Houston, Texas, as the youngest of three children of Samuel Sam Williamson, a World War II veteran and immigration lawyer, and Sophie Ann Kaplan, a homemaker and community volunteer. Authentication found evidence that Miss Williamson attended college but dropped out of school in 1973 before receiving a degree. Williamson has an upper middle class upbringing. Ms. Williamson is currently a successful writer who has written several self-help books, many of which have become New York Times bestsellers. She rose to national attention after several appearances on The Oprah Winfrey Show. She remains a successful author and is currently running for president. Authentication found a dearth of data revealing any extensive experience in national security matters. She has not served in the military. There is no evidence that she has developed any detailed plan for how she would manage the national security challenges currently facing the United States if she should become the new commander-in-chief. Authentication did find, however, an article in WikiQuotes where she outlines her general views on the national security and foreign relations, which include efforts to denuclearize. In another article appearing in the Council on Foreign Relations, she is critical of China over the theft of intellectual property and the country's, quote, drive to dominate global markets, close quote. She says the United States must push back on Beijing's human rights record. On Israel, she says, and I quote, the United States should have an equal, simultaneous support for both the legitimate security concerns of Israel and the human rights, dignity, and economic opportunities of the Palestinian people. I do not believe the settlements on the West Bank are legal. Also, I would rescind the president's affirmation of sovereignty of Israel over the Golan Heights. I understand the occupation of the Golan Heights, but only until there is a stable government in Syria with whom we can negotiate. According to international law, the occupation of a territory does not give an occupying country a right to annex it. Also, according to international law, the resources of the unoccupied territory are to be used for the good of those living there. I also do not support the blockade of Gaza. She also shows concern for the dearth of attention being paid by national security officials to Latin America. Similarly, Ms. Williamson has little, if any, experience in foreign affairs, except as it relates to a childhood trip to Vietnam during the Vietnam War. On other national security and foreign policy fronts, she is an advocate of the U.S. demilitarization and moves towards a peace-based economy. She has advocated for establishing a new government agency, the Department of Peace. She has proffered no plan that we could find as to what she would specifically do to resolve the long-term national debt crisis. Authentication found a dearth of credible data indicating that Ms. Williamson has developed any strategic plan to reduce the cost of national health care. Authentication did, however, find a transcript of a Democratic debate where she said, and I quote, when we're talking about healthcare, we need to talk about more than just the healthcare plan. We need to realize we have a sickness care rather than a healthcare system. We need to be a party talking about why so many of our chemical policies and our food policies and our agricultural policies and our environment policies and even our economic policies are leading to people sick to begin with. In similar fashion, it does not appear that Ms. Williamson has any written plan containing specific details as to how she would maintain the long-term solvency of the Social Security system. Authentication found no credible sources relating to the existence of any strategic plan that could be further analyzed to determine its credibility. Authentication found an article at WikiQuote stating, Williamson is in favor of universal preschool and believes in increasing funding to provide free or affordable lunches and breakfasts for students. She supports making reforms to standardize testing and boosting teacher training and education infrastructure. Williamson also believes, quote, in free college or technical school tuition and investing in trade schools, and supports the idea of student loan forgiveness programs, such as eliminating interest rates and fees for federal student loans. Her tax policy assertions include repealing Donald Trump's 2017 tax cut that she believes disproportionately benefited wealthy Americans, instituting a middle-class tax cut, and increasing taxes on the assets of billionaires. Authentication, however, could not find any detailed plan on how Ms. Williamson would pay for the implementation of her tax and other policies without massive increases in the already ballooning national debt. Williamson believes action is needed to address climate change and preserve the environment. She has said she supports appointing, quote, a world-class environmentalist, close quote, to head the Environmental Protection Agency. On energy, she supports halting all new fossil fuel projects and restarting the Obama-era Clean Power Plan. Williamson would also place a temporary ban on new oil and gas fracking and invest in electric vehicle production and high-speed trains. Authentication found a dearth of information, however, on any detailed plan on the extended order effects of her policies, both good and bad, based on scientific research. Ms. Williamson supports abortion rights and has said she believes the decision to get an abortion is up to a woman and, I quote, the dictates of her conscience and in communion with the God of her understanding, close quote. Williamson supports the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, known as DACA, which protects young, undocumented immigrants who were brought to the country illegally as children. She backs providing a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants with no serious criminal records. She also supports providing affordable health care to undocumented immigrant families and reducing the number of immigrants in detention centers. Authentication, however, found a dearth of information on how she would deal with the current crisis at the southern border when she is elected president. On the issue of criminal justice reform, authentication found a dearth of information detailing Ms. Williamson's plan for judicial reform that lays out specific problems and actions that she believes are required to reform the larger justice system in America. In an article at Politico, however, she is grouped with other candidates supporting the abolishment of private prisons and abolishing the death penalty. She is a strong proponent of greater gun control. Authentication found much credible evidence that Ms. Williamson believes in the equality of all Americans. She has developed a reparations plan, which calls for a commission of African American leaders who would decide how to distribute up to $500 billion in payments to descendants of American slaves, and I quote, for economic and educational renewal, close quote. So on the plus side, we found Ms. Williamson is healthy enough to serve out 2 terms as President of the United States. She is a woman of God. She is a highly successful writer and a businesswoman. She knows the meaning of hard work. On the downside, however, authentication found a dearth of supporting research for many of her policy goals and positions, which appear largely as sound bites without detailed explanation of extended order effects and specific benefits and plans to accomplish them once she is elected president. She has little, if any, experience in national security and foreign policy affairs. While her broad policy positions on climate, energy, and the environment are clear, they are not accompanied by any detailed plans to achieve them. She has no detailed plan to reduce the national debt and maintain the solvency of the Social Security system, while she spends to implement her expensive policies. We could find no evidence that she has proffered any specific plans as to what she would specifically do to resolve the long-term national debt crisis. There is a dearth of information in which she speaks in specific terms about how she would resolve the current crisis at the southern border. She has defined no specific list of the problems requiring the reform of the justice system, except to say, along with other Democrat candidates, that she would support abolishing private jails and the death penalty. Authentication found a dearth of credible data indicating that Ms. Williams has developed a strategic plan that she will implement to reduce the cost of national health care. Now, to remain objective in this assessment of Ms. Williamson, it is necessary to point out that she has not received as much attention as other candidates because of limitations in her campaign funding and other factors. Over the next several months, it is likely that she will develop more detailed strategies and plans in these areas to share with the American people. It is what it is. We want to thank you for watching the Objective News Network. Next time, we will take a look at another candidate running for president in 2024. In the meantime, please tell your family, friends, colleagues, and followers about us. Thank you again for watching, and please subscribe.